everyone. In October 2014, the Prime Minister of India started a conversation with the people of India. You may ask what was so unique about it, because at that time, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had just arrived as the Prime Minister, and he was experimenting with various formats in communicating his idea of governance, his idea of future of India. And now, that idea, which is Mann Ki Baat, is completing 100 episodes. And one of the chroniclers of those 100 episodes is with me here in the studio, Mr. Shashi Shekhar, who has come out with this book, Collective Spirit, Concrete Action, Mann Ki Baat and its influence on India. So let me get straight into the question. Mr. Shekhar, what has been the impact and the influence of Mann Ki Baat on India and its people?
So if you look at the impact of Mann Ki Baat, which is in fact the main subject of this book, three things become very clear. Right. The first is that whenever the Prime Minister has issued a direct call to action through Mann Ki Baat, it has elicited a tremendous response from the people. Few examples that stand out are Incredible India campaign, selfie with daughter, Swachhta, of course. So these are all direct calls to action. LPG subsidy, where people were motivated to let go of the Give It Up campaign, which was popularized through Mann Ki Baat. And he talks about each of these in various episodes of Mann Ki Baat, that I issued this call to action and then people responded. So that is a very clear direct impact. The second impact is on the people that have featured in Mann Ki Baat. He's picked up examples of changemakers, people who are making a difference on the grassroots level across India, every remote corner. He's taken their stories and given them a national platform. And what that has done is suddenly they've become popular within their domain, within their sphere of influence. Others have started contributing to their initiatives. So that is the second impact. The third bigger impact is the mass scale behavioral change, right? Be it cleanliness, be it environmental consciousness. Also, behavioral change on very, very small things. For example, there are these moments in Mann Ki Baat where, from personal experiences, from his own formative experiences, he brings up, he asks society to make certain changes. And I think those have taken root. They have resulted in a behavioral change that we are able to see across India today. So I think that is the three-dimensional, I would say, impact.
And since you have been involved in the process as well, as the former CEO of Prasar Bharati, you were involved in the production, exchange of ideas. What was the process of making a Mann Ki Baat episode like?
I think that's a brilliant question, because the process of making Mann Ki Baat starts several weeks before the episode airs, right? It starts with the Prime Minister calling for ideas. And what stands out is the unique manner in which he has used technology through MyGov platform, through social media. Of course, people still write in with the good old way with postcards and so on. So he solicits ideas for what should be the topic or the themes of Mann Ki Baat in that month. So that is where the process starts. Then, of course, the recording happens in the studio with the Prime Minister.
And what is the response like initially, and how it changed and grew perhaps over the years? पहले आप शायद 100 आते होंगे, अब 1 लाख, 2 लाख से ज़्यादा.
Yeah, of course. The volume of inputs has only increased, and of course with digital, with different platforms, that volume has gone up substantially. And you will see that steadily he's added new modes, right? Initially it was only people writing in, then social media, then MyGov, and then of course they've opened up this interactive voice response platform where people can call in and leave messages. So there's various ways in which these ideas are sourced. What is also unique about Mann Ki Baat is not just a radio program, it's a visual radio program. So it's not just the recording and then that's the end of the story, right? You got to get this recording, then you got to transcribe it, because he speaks extempore, he goes into all these various themes and topics. Then you have to identify appropriate visuals and then overlay it at the pace at which he's talking and speaking and make it relevant, right? And then the entire package comes through. So that is just the first broadcast in Hindi, the original broadcast. Then you got to do it in this multitude of languages, 40 plus languages and dialects in which Mann Ki Baat is broadcast subsequently.
And from the day one, that is October 2014 onwards, you did it in multiple languages.
Yes, it was multilingual. Of course, the number of languages and dialects grew over a period of time. but it was multilingual from day one.
Okay, before I get into more details about inspirational stories, because this was about that emotional connect with the audience, you know, women in particular, Nari Shakti, as he emphasized on, and he spoke about toilets, he spoke about sanitary napkins from the ramparts of Red Fort. The narrative changed. What has it done in terms of women participation? As a woman anchor, I would want to know from you, if from what it was to now, how you see it.
So the participation of women in Mann Ki Baat has only increased over the period of time. It has been at both levels. One is where he talks about women who are making a change, as well as women participating in the program through call-ins and conversation that he has. And then the various initiatives that he has picked up, like Bharat Ki Lakshmi, for example, where women achievers were celebrated from across India, where people were asked to identify who are their women champions. Two examples that I've in fact you will see on the backside of the book are two young women, right, who have made tremendous impact in their sphere of influence. The first is this lady from Manipur, Vijay Shanti.
If you can help us with those pages.
Yeah, right here. So there is Tongbram Vijay Shanti, an agricultural entrepreneur. Now she's done something very innovative, using lotus stems to make fabrics, to make tea leaves, all kinds of innovative products. What she says, in fact, there's something she's shared with us, which is featured in this book, is that her journey, once it was featured on Mann Ki Baat, has inspired others to take up these kinds of agri products. So that is the impact of what it is having. So it's not only she being empowered, she being made popular, but others looking at her as a role model and adopting similar.
So that's why you name it as concrete action.
Concrete action. The second example to me, which is personally most inspiring, is this girl Anvi from Gujarat. She's a Divyang. She has Down syndrome. She has got a whole bunch of ailments, but she demonstrates yoga and has become a role model, an icon for healthy living using yoga. And I think it is a phenomenal story, and the Prime Minister had shared that. And her parents say that after she was featured on Mann Ki Baat, her yoga sessions have become very popular. More and more people have taken up yoga, and it has become very inspiring that a Divyang girl with so many medical ailments, if she can be a role model for healthy living, why not every one of us in our everyday lives? So I think this is what Prime Minister has done, that he has inspired normal people, common citizens, to become role models for others within their sphere of influence.
What were the brainstorming sessions with the Prime Minister like?
For Mann Ki Baat, you mean? So I think the process for Mann Ki Baat, typically once all these inputs come in, he looks at the themes, he looks at what is relevant within that time period. Also, he also looks for interesting nuggets of information, quotable quotes. I mean, this is one thing that really stands out about Mann Ki Baat, that he's picked up quotes from across India's literary poetry treasures, not just Hindi, not just Sanskrit, but Tamil, but all parts of India. And I think by sharing those nuggets of wisdom, linking ancient values to modern day issues, I think that has been the most enriching part of this whole process of making of Mann Ki Baat, every Mann Ki Baat episode.
Yes, because he's talked about that Jan Bhagidari, that you keep talking about it in your book, and I have some parts of that book. There's a very interesting part where you talk about how Moradabad example of slipper manufacturing to masks with Madhubani motifs. Right. And the discourse went on to cover maintaining cooking traditions in Sambalpur and hoisting the tricolour by our Divyang brethren at Siachen Glacier. When you look at this kind of participation from across the country, from across, different kinds of people, different, the rich Indian tradition that we have had, where did these stories come from? Did they come from the people, or was it part of your research where you wanted to showcase them?
Most of the time, these are ideas that have come from the people, right? These are people writing into the Prime Minister that, I'm doing this, I'm trying to make this change. And then he finds it interesting. Then he, sometimes he converses with them. Sometimes he talks about, what has been written about them in the media and, other places. So that's how these stories have come about. What we have done in this book is that some of the individuals who featured in Mann Ki Baat, we have spoken to them to understand, how it has impacted their work. Like, for example, Pradeep Sangwan talks about saving Himalayas, where the pilgrimage paths to the Char Dham have been made plastics free. There is Ripu Daman, who is called the plugging man of India, who has done this very unique thing of combining fitness with cleanliness. And he talks about how thousands of people have now gotten involved with plugging, and plugging has become kind of a mass movement. There is this Divyang person, Rajappan in Kerala. I think it's a moving story that he is completely paralyzed. He crawls, he can't walk, but he goes around on this chota sa skiff kind of thing and cleans the rivers and removes plastics. I think there can't be a more inspirational example than that.
Yes, and Mr. Shekhar, I remember as a journalist who covers this government and the BJP, when the first episode was broadcast, there was a lot of anticipation as to what will the Prime Minister say. We were looking at the news points, and gradually we saw that transition of Mann Ki Baat, where it was about culture, heritage, the travels and the Prime Minister's own experiences. Do you think it was important for someone who has had 20 years of governance experiences to share it with the countrymen, because it was also about his own vision?
It's his vision, it's also his learning, his discovery, his exploration of India. In that sense, I would say that if you want to understand contemporary India, I think Mann Ki Baat is a perfect guide. It's a perfect window to look at how India has changed, how it is drawing inspiration from its past, but it is actively shaping its future. Also, I think in the context of how he's communicating with citizens, I think the international context is also very important. There is no precedent, no example of a communication of this kind by any head of state in any democracy. You have the weekend broadcasts that used to happen in the US by the presidents, but those are speeches which are very politically loaded, very much caught up in the political news cycle of that week. Then you had, I believe, Tony Blair had some initiative around Ask Your PM. Again, it's a very one-off kind of thing. Then you have, not a democracy, Venezuela, completely dictatorship, where Hugo Chavez would do this radio program called Hello President, which is a monologue which would go on for hours together. But nothing of the kind where it is about positivity, it's about motivating behavioral change, it is about a vision for India, where it is about communities being the center stage, individuals who are making a difference being featured. I think it's very unique and unprecedented anywhere in the world.
Yes, you have called it unprecedented. There have been several researchers which actually shared the similar view. But what about the opposition, which says that this is a monologue and it's not a dialogue? The Prime Minister is not communicating or trying to understand what people of India have to say. He is only telling what he thinks.
Well, when my counter to that is, if the Prime Minister were to do that, then prime time news anchors will not have work to do, because he's going to discuss politics all day. I think his purpose or mission in Mann Ki Baat is very different. He is not looking at the hot button issues of the day. He is looking at long-term changes. Right? Swachhta is a process that has started in 2014 and it is ongoing, and it has motivated several people to become brand ambassadors, change agents. So that is the kind of mission behind Mann Ki Baat. So it is not about the hot button issue of the day. So in that sense, I think the opposition has gotten it wrong. I also looked at, as part of the research for this book, that which are the major controversies. It's very hard. You can't find any controversies because the topics are non-controversial. Who can be opposed to Swachhta? Who can be opposed to Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao? Right?
So then why pick up these topics?
What do you mean by that? I didn't get it.
In the sense that what the opposition says, the critics of Mann Ki Baat say that why would you pick up topics which are not directly relating to people? They have certain other concerns which they think that they are highlighting, and the Prime Minister is speaking completely different.
No, because these are the issues that matter to the people in the long run. These are the issues that matter to communities in the long run. And people are engaged with the change process through this platform. If it was not the case, if these are issues that were not concerning the people, you would not see this overwhelming response for every one of these calls to action, right? So I think that is the fundamental reason why Mann Ki Baat is not focused on your 24/7 news cycle, but it is focused on the issues that matter to communities across India.
So before I move in now to the Jan Bhagidari aspect of it, I'm going to refer to this IIM Rohtak survey which has been done on Mann Ki Baat, and it says that 17.6% Indians prefer to listen to the program on the radio, while a large section, which is 44.7%, prefer to listen to it on television, in fact, watch and listen. The other 37.6% tuned into the program via mobile. You are seeing the difference. And the Prime Minister chose a medium such as radio. And at a time when the BJP is always seen as setting the trend in communication. He could have chosen YouTube. He could have chosen, podcast. He could have chosen any other platform. Why did he choose radio?
So radio, for the simple reason, in fact, he talks about it. He's talked about it at length on the importance of radio to everyday life in India. He gives the example of when he was a BJP secretary working in Himachal, and how he learned of the certain breaking news at that time through All India Radio at one of the tea sellers, and he says that that is how it struck him that how radio continues to be such a medium of importance. If you want geographical reach in India, you'll only get it through radio.
Is it through Mann Ki Baat you're seeing a revival of a medium?
Absolutely. It has definitely given the medium a new look, news life. Also, the fact that it is not just one language and multiple languages. You are serving audiences which commercial media will never serve, right? You go to interiors, tribal hamlets of Chhattisgarh, you go to Northeast, where there are not just languages but several hundred dialects, right? How do you communicate to those communities in a language that they understand naturally? And that's happening through radio, through All India Radio, and because of Mann Ki Baat.
You have a very interesting paragraph in this book where you talk about how there were teachings of Bhagavad Gita in Brazil, Mahabharat project in Japan, the propagation of Khadi in Mexico, the popularization of our music in Tanzania and Greece, and the translation of ancient Indian texts in Mongolia. All these aspects which the Prime Minister is talking about, did these references in fact come from the people, Indians in these places, because they were also discovering that the Indian culture and heritage has traveled far and wide, or was it about the Prime Minister's own experience?
Both, I would say. In fact, a large part is the diaspora, because the diaspora is extremely engaged with Mann Ki Baat. We've seen several examples. For example, there is this brothers from Nagpur who championed tribal causes in the United States, tribal causes of India, and they created awareness. There is this couple in New Jersey who took this traditional sport of Malkham and created an entire movement around it. So diaspora engagement is very deep, and Mann Ki Baat has been a big enabler for that. And many of these stories are coming not just from people writing in, but it is also through how Prime Minister Modi has been able to engage the diaspora in a soft diplomacy across the globe.
And how many times have you actually heard these 99 episodes to write this book?
Well, that was quite an exercise, because one thing I realized while researching for this book is that the span of topics, the span of themes that he's picked up is so wide that I had the spreadsheet which would run into 25 to 30 tabs, because I tried to organize the various instances by cleanliness, by environment, farming, gender issues. I mean, it was so wide. Secondly, the number of people and organizations is talked about. If you just take, let's say, changemakers, I mean, that list runs into more than 120, 130 individuals. And then farmers, and then NGOs doing work on yoga and Ayush and so on. So it's the length and breadth of the content in Mann Ki Baat is so vast that it was quite a challenge to hold all of that in your mind and then think of what is the narrative that you want to put out in each of these things.
Yes, and Mr. Shekhar, since again you have been involved in this entire process, you spoke about what exactly does it take to come out with an episode of Mann Ki Baat. There's certainly a lot of effort, a lot of exhaustive research, if I may use that word. But one thing is clear, it's about ordinary people, they doing extraordinary work, but more so about minute details, which जो कहते हैं ना कि शायद हम लोग भागते भागते जिंदगी में वो हम overlook कर देते हैं.
Absolutely. In fact, two examples which struck me, which I've mentioned in this book. The Prime Minister talks about in the context of festivals. He says that don't forget your domestic helps, don't forget your service providers, your milkman, your newspaper boy. Make them a part of the celebration for these festivals. I mean, these are small things. Then there is another episode where he says that, we have in India this culture that we have to bargain for everything, we have to haggle. Unless we haggle, we don't feel good. He says, think about the other guy. Think about what the seller is going through when you do that, how demeaning it can be. So don't argue for every small thing, don't bargain for every small thing. No, these are not just small issues that he's trying to put out. These are also from his formative experiences, because we have to put in context his own life journey, where he's come from, right? Because his father was selling tea, his mother was working as a domestic help. It is those formative experiences which have remained with him, but then you don't see victimhood. He's talking about positivity. I think that is the biggest learning from Mann Ki Baat, that it is not about grievance, it is not about victimhood, it is about positive change.
And this is about celebration of India.
Celebration.
And Indians. Yes. And Indianness.
Absolutely.
Everything. My last question to you, sometimes people would say that the Prime Minister could speak from a position of strength only because of his personal charisma and his years and years of work as a Karyakarta of the Bhajpa and then as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and that entire journey or the process in his political journey. Do you think that played a big role? His personal capital?
I don't think it is as much as personal capital or charisma. It is more about his formative experiences. He is speaking through his experiences, right? He started very early in his life, where he left home, visited various parts of the country, got involved in grassroots work, and he's learned lessons the hard way at every stage. And those lessons are what are reflected in every theme that he picks up in Mann Ki Baat, with that thinking behind it. For example, he talks about learning from failures, be it the Chandrayaan mission that had its setbacks, or in general exams, overcoming anxiety over exams, talking about math, talking about science. He is able to very easily navigate a very vast array of subjects.
And what about age groups, the
and
demographic?
And
I want to understand from you, because you specify and talked about radio as a medium, which the Prime Minister had heard during one of the breaking news situations. But the question is that, is this a medium still for the youth of India? Are they able to relate to the Prime Minister? Or what efforts are being made by the makers of Mann Ki Baat to relate to the youth, the young demographic?
So it's perhaps the first and only radio program which is not only on radio, it is on television, it is on digital, it's on YouTube, it is on podcasts. So there are multiple, and Alexa, there are so many ways in which you can listen to it, that it is able to reach out to every demographic possible. And even the selection, the choice of topics, he talks about storytelling, he talks about stargazing, he says be curious about science, ask questions, right? So he's reaching out to younger audiences and senior citizens at the same time, and he's able to do that primarily because he has been engaged and involved with people his entire political life.
My last question to you, where does Mann Ki Baat go from this century?
I think that's a $1 million question. I think there will be more engagement, more innovative. In fact, you will see the program itself has innovated over the years. He started with a monologue, then got into conversations, then got into highlighting various initiatives, then calls to action. The languages in which it is available has increased. In fact, one of the things that I pointed out in this book is how various people working on machine learning and artificial intelligence have found the corpus of Mann Ki Baat in these 40 languages very useful to develop language models, to to do algorithms and so on. So in the future, I would say Mann Ki Baat will take perhaps a new life. It will perhaps imbibe more elements of technology, maybe even artificial intelligence for all we know. The Prime Minister is very creative. He is not afraid of experimentation. So we'll expect all kinds of things.
And perhaps Mr. Shashi Shekhar will be coming up with another book.
Hopefully.
With that, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for chronicling this entire journey of Mann Ki Baat. Thanks so much for watching.